welcome everybody. It's a great honor for me personally and for EUI to host today Corrado Passera, who will participate with me in an informal interview and exchange of views on a number of topics. Corrado needs no introduction from me. I mean, in my opinion, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, he's one of the most remarkable leaders that have navigated Italy in the last 20, 30 years in a variety of fields. Remarkable because of the breadth of his commitments in several fields, and also for his ability to be an outstanding administrator and, in addition, an outstanding innovator. He has been able to make his stamp and make a change in all the places where he has been committing himself. We are going to speak about a few things, banking mainly, European banking, Italian banking, etc. But I would like to start with a little bit of a personal question, because I've been knowing Corrado for many years. I've been following his career step by step. We met at, I think, the first time in a US university.
More than met.
Okay, but that was about, my count is about 45 years ago. So we've been...
don't say so, no.
No, but one thing I noted, I think this is a leitmotif of his, more than his career, his approach to things, to the will and the ability to combine whatever engagement he has been in with a sense of public service. He's been working in private finance for many, many years, and he has been able always to find the way to be attentive to the public interest implication of what he was doing and to inject an element of collective interest in everything he has done. I think this is remarkable, and it's in particular, I think it's inspiring for the young who are starting a career. So I would like to ask Corrado a little bit his vision of how to combine his engagement in the various fields he has been in with public interest, and what advice, what indication he could give to the young, who are either students or young professionals who are starting a career now, and whom I found many times are interested, they want to be involved in public service one way or another. What indication, what suggestion you would give to the young who are starting today?
Oh, first of all, thank you for what you said. It's well beyond what I deserve. Suggestions are always difficult to give because everybody, each person is a different person. But if I have to stress one point, for example, about my present experience, we created the bank a few years ago, 4 years ago, and the 900 people that joined the bank, coming from different industries, different nationalities, different companies. I mean, if there is one common reason why they joined, and sometimes they left very interesting positions to join a startup, it's because they feel that we are not making profit, but we are also useful. And as you know, in Italy, profit and useful is the same word, is utili. So we have this sort of motto, an easy one, maybe a banal one, but we want to make profit and we want to be useful at the same time. And this sort of responsibility at the end is what I always felt, actually, in every single step. And some of the steps I've been lucky to be part of. I mean, these two components have always been there. When we restructured Olivetti, I mean, a very old company, almost bankrupt, and we turned it into an information telecommunication company, creating probably the largest startup ever in our country. We really wanted to give life again to a symbol of the Italian economy, Olivetti, and that was really in bad shape. When Ciampi, Mr. Ciampi, asked me to join PosteItaliane, That was almost the metaphor of the Italian inefficiency, and we decided together to try to show that in the public authorities world, there is such a reserve of improvement, of service, of dignity. And actually, PosteItaliane started as one of the worst in the world, and today is one of the best in the world. I mean, it's a listed company, it makes profit, it's one of the largest financial service organizations, but what is really important is the evidence that we, in Italy, we could be much better than what we are. Intesa San Paolo, I mean, we started in a small provincial bank. We became the largest in Italy and one of the best, actually, one of the best in Europe. Again, because we said this is the bank of the country. It's not only the most profitable, the most aggressive, the most fastest growing, but it's a bank that adds value to the community. When we created Banca Prossima, that was the first and probably remains the largest bank focused on social enterprises, I mean, that was the evidence that that was a bank capable to cover areas that typically only profit-oriented banks do not cover. Again, so I don't want to make too many examples, but if I joined the government in that terrible moment with Mr. Monti and I left everything in 2 hours, my stock option too. I mean, it was because we had to prove that Italy could defend its own sovereignty, and we proved that it was possible. So I don't want to make other personal examples, but if I have to find a common thread in all these cases that were at the same time full of uncertainty, full of complexity, full of change. I mean, the two elements that are really common to all of them are the importance of people, because at the end is the strength of the team and the investment you make on your people that make any endeavor successful, both in the public world and in the private one. And the other one is innovation. Innovation with the idea that nothing is enough. It's always, it's never enough in terms of bringing technological innovation, organizational innovation, commercial innovation. So I made all these, all this introduction to get to your question. Which suggestions, what can we suggest to young people that share this view? Because some people don't care. They say, common
I just want to make money.
I want to make money. Don't bother me with other kind. And there are.
But it's not the majority.
It's not the majority. Certainly not the majority. I'm afraid the majority of the older people still believe this kind of thing.
At least at our age.
Exactly. But let's assume that the people we're talking to are open to this balance between personal interest and community interest and common good. If they have to take decisions in terms of their personal career, my first suggestion is choose between two very wide alternatives. You can be a specialist, or you can work on becoming a leader. When I mean a leader, I mean an entrepreneur, a CEO, a public administrator, but someone who leads other people. If you want to be a specialist, and you can be happy, it can be a perfect decision, excellent focalization, excellence, focus, narrow, sometimes focus is the key word. But if you want to provide, to be a leader and provide value also to others, then it's a different story. You have to be ready to change, to make different jobs, to get to know different industries, different areas. Be ready to spend part of your life on the other side of the moon. If you are in the public world, you better understand better the private world. If you are focused in the private world, you better spend some years in the public authorities or in politics or in whatever is not private. Because if you want to really provide value, that's my opinion, I mean, it's not a rule of the game, is first of all to understand that no one has the monopoly of virtue. Not the private world, not the public world, not the private non-profit world. I mean, these are three legs of a table that all of them have to work together to keep the table stable. I mean, this answer is becoming too long, but be ready to change several times and be ready to look at the other side of the moon.
So we want to talk about banking a little bit, okay, for a few minutes. And banking has been at the European level, at the global level actually, but in Europe in particular, has been a field that has undergone a real revolution in the last 10 years or so after the great financial crisis, or at least the hope of a revolution. We'll see how much of a revolution it is. But as you know, 10 years ago, there was this project launch of the banking union at the European level. Banking union meant basically bringing together at the European level the three legs of the banking framework. So a single set of rules, a single supervision, and a single safety net. So deposit insurance, resolution funding, etc. So the three things should be strengthened and should be brought up at the European level with all the cooperation at the national level, but essentially becoming European. So 10 years have gone, certain things have happened, certain important things have happened. We have a supervisory authority in DCB, which is well established with clear rules, about 1,000 people, which is a force in itself. Very competent people, I can say from my own experience. The condition of the banks, at least on average in Europe, has improved very substantially. They are more capitalized, they have cleaner balance sheets, etc., better governance, all in all. But many things are missing. We don't have a real common safety net. There's no deposit insurance. There's no cross-border banking that we can speak about. I mean, banking has remained more or less as national as it was at the beginning. I mean, that, you know, I'm exaggerating, but that's what it is. No significant mergers, no cross-border banking flows, at least at the retail level. So we are stuck in the middle. This is what most people conclude. And in Italy, there's been significant progress. Italy was a country that was starting a little bit behind in terms of the quality of banking. So correspondingly, the improvement has been greater, together with few other countries. But in certain respect, we are still stuck, and there are still problems to be solved. And now with all the crises that have come after that, first of all, the pandemic, and then the war, and everything that may come, the inflation, high inflation now, the terrain where the banks operate are difficult. Now the interest rates are rising, so the conditions may improve a little bit from a cash flow point of view, but conditions are still challenging, I would call them. So how do you see it now from the point of view of your new creature, which is Illimity, which is a small medium enterprises, an institution serving the small and medium enterprise. So you can see it from the most critical part of the borrowing side, okay, the real economy. What has changed for them? And what needs to be changed if we change more for them?
Several questions in the same question. You're right. We, as Europeans, we have done quite a journey. We have a common set of rules. We have a strong supervisory body, but we do not have yet a single market. Because actually we do not behave, we cannot maybe, but we do not behave like the United States as a single market. We are not there yet. You have already explained a bit the reason why, but just to be a bit provocative, let's make a couple of questions. Do we really want it? Because, and this is a very strategic point for the future of Europe, we are not creating global players in a number of crucial industries. And banking actually is one of those. And we are leaving the leadership to other big powers, global powers, and US and China are certainly ahead of us. I mean, there are a number of technological areas where this is the same, defense, the kind of problems we are having because of telecommunication, microchips and micro semiconductors. I mean, so we are not yet moving in that clear direction. And if Europe does not take that position, that vision, I mean, we will never be able to behave like a big power, a great power amongst the other great global powers. This is something that we, everybody, the universities, the people like you and me, like everybody, I mean, the media, but the young people should have it clearly in mind. We are not building through a single market a presence in a number of crucial industries, players that can be leaders at the global level. And this is quite a weakness. Getting back, so if we want to prove that, if we realize this problem, we have to act consequently and create a single market, something that is not happening yet. At the same time, because the final comment will be positive, I mean the first two will be negative, but second or provocative comment, are there European banks that are ready and willing to play that game? I mean, the lack of an easy single market, is that an excuse or is a reality? If we had to make the list of banks that are ready to become that kind of players in a world, in a continent where I'm not sure that even the political worlds want to have very few, because there will be few, very big players. So we have to make clear from a political point of view, and we have to really stimulate the very few players that can play that game in that direction.
So you're opening a new chapter here. So it's not a matter of rules or of empowering, but it's a matter of will.
It's also a matter
the politician and also the banks themselves.
The banks themselves.
Okay.
So, or at least, I want, because when players in a market keep using one excuse not to do something that is logical, I mean, you have to challenge their willingness to do it. So I would raise these two.
Well, some tried. I mean, in the early 2000s, for example, Deutsche Bank had an ambition. I mean, they didn't do it maybe
properly,
in the right
or
way,
effectively. I mean, but if they tried it, they couldn't because it was a matter of regulation. Let's help them in doing it. But are they moving in that direction? It is at least a question mark. Mm-hmm. The positive comment. Maybe the single market will not happen through the traditional incumbent players. Maybe we will have in the next few years, not only in Europe, but also in Europe, a number of new players, digital platforms of different kind, players that have nothing to do with the rules of the game and especially the habits of the incumbents. And maybe what we have to develop or help or at least accept is strong, ambitious innovation connected with the new technological possibilities that are now available that were not available. So let's keep a door open also to something that will be single market, but will have different players. You mentioned Italy. Italy, in my opinion, has done quite a number of right steps in the right direction in the last few decades. We all remember when we had more than 1,000 banks, now we are less than 100. We remember when the system was 100% politically driven or semi or quasi-politically driven. Today is 95% private.
Some of it is still politically supported, one could say.
Yes and no. I mean, not more than in many other countries. I mean, we certainly had a couple of cases where we have two state-owned banks, Monte Paschi, that is still there, and Popolare di Bari. But two, it used to be 900. There are a number of mid-sized companies that are consolidating themselves, and we have at least one that is becoming national. All the rural banks have been grouped into holding companies, and they are sort of becoming a network of distribution channels for these two holding companies. And a number of new animals are being created, thanks also to the regulatory framework that was created. Illimity, 4 years ago, was a PowerPoint presentation. Today, we are 900 professionals with 5 billion worth of asset, very good ROE, and I must say, the regulator has been very good at guiding and supporting this kind of innovation. Italy is a country where a number of international banks have created their networks, are very present. So the change has been the right one in the right direction. As you were saying, there is still room to do, but probably rather than reasoning in the old way, we should push the innovation lever and support the efforts of these banks in their innovation effort, and be open to new players that are providing, like in our case, good services to segments of the market that are not well serviced by traditional players, because SMEs are not well serviced by traditional banks, while through different technologies and the right focalization, things can be changed.
Do you think innovation is more policy-driven or freedom-driven? I noticed in the website of Illimity, which I glanced today, one of the initial sentences is we pursue innovation and we live in freedom. And it's a combination of the two. So what is the right balance between, because the European Union, the Commission, etc., and some member states try to push innovation and in a variety of ways, and they often do not succeed. So, and in the US, innovation is largely freedom-driven, more than policy-driven, meaning not incentivized. It's not incentivized, it's allowed to happen.
It's a difficult question, but I always connect entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial spirit with innovation, because the two things, in my opinion, are really two sides of the same coin. Innovation can be accepted, and that's the regulation contribution, because since innovation changes the rule, I mean, regulators have to be smart enough to let the world go a little bit beyond what is today the present set of rules and habits, and then regulate it. Politics can support innovation. And it's not only, I mean, we're not talking about only the banking, in the banking world, but if you reward from a tax point of view, in a major structural way, companies that invest in innovation, companies that aggregate, companies that increase their equity to invest in an horizontal way, because the politics and the public authorities cannot choose which industries, which kind of companies, where, but they can provide rewards to virtuous behaviors. And investing in technology is, in any case, something good for the economy and for the society.
I'm tempted to ask you whether you think that Italian politics, especially going forward, will share this view on innovation, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to enter into politics.
We will have to ask whatever government we have to do that. I mean, if we do not reward in a structural way, but in a major way, companies that are already good, that invest in innovation, that hire people, that buy other companies, that inject money into their equity. I mean, that's the only way to have the country moving in the right direction. Italy will be saved by the companies that today export more than 600 billion euros worth of goods every year.
So we have discussed about innovation in banking and more broadly. Innovation has a policy component and also has a strong, perhaps predominant, private initiative components, which requires leadership. Okay, so the innovation is most often a leader that has the courage, the knowledge, the spirit, and the ability to innovate. So my next question, and perhaps final question in this interview, could be, how do you frame, how would you picture the right leader for, particularly for Europe in this particular point in time, with all the challenges that we see globally? What are the leaders that can bring Europe and its economy out of the doldrums, if I can say so, in which it has been largely blocked for so many years?
So we are in a very uncertain, complex, ever-changing world. So what kind of leadership is the best fit to take the most out of companies, but not only of private companies, organizations in general, in such a situation? If we leave for a second aside obvious features of a good leader in terms of dedication, competence, integrity, okay, that's a sort of given. Probably the main characteristics of the good leaders, the useful leaders, are these ones. First, let's call it a holistic view. I mean, the capability to put together diversities, to put together different components that, especially in large organizations, but also in small organizations, are more and more evident. So the sort of orchestra director capability, the capability to get the most out of everybody by putting them together, or if you can use another metaphor, the team leader, the coach, the sport coach, someone who is in the field choosing the right people at the right time, supporting them in understanding the role of each of them and the way they can work together. So this is, especially in large complex organizations, something that is often missing. In a world where everything is changing continuously, good leaders are creative people. And when I say creative people, I don't mean that the leader has to be the one that invented the new things, but he has or she has to create the environment where new ideas can come out, explode, be tested, where there is a sort of acceptance for a certain level of failure, because if you accept entrepreneurship inside a company, you have to accept a certain number of failures, because not all new ideas are good ideas. And this love for diversity. I mean, for example, in Illimity, 70% of the people never saw a bank before, because I wanted the contribution of people coming from other industries that have already gone through digitization, people that have already made their mistakes in other areas. So love for diversity is very close to what I said, creativity. Then probably the most crucial leadership characteristic is let's call them change management skills. When everything keeps changing, people need to be escorted, supported in this change, because change creates anxiety. Change blocks people in most cases, and the good leaders show a dream, an objective, something that is worth working for. Then the good leader understands the anxiety of the people in changing the way they work, the way they interact, what they do. So there is a lot of this interaction. And then it's a person that on the one side has a vision that is capable to communicate, and at the same time is very tied to execution, because so many good strategies are not successful because there is a problem of execution. And execution has to be subdivided into short-term targets, long-term targets, and people have to realize that what they are doing is being realized.
Should we accept failure more easily in Europe than we do?
Yeah,
because part of the anxiety that you mentioned is precisely because in Europe, certain countries in particular, but in Europe, failure is not easily accepted.
It was not accepted at all. We are moving in that direction. We're not there yet. Whatever helps the entrepreneurial spirit is okay. For example, when as minister, I had the Startup Act approved by the Parliament. The most important thing was, if you fail, you are not put anymore in the register of the failed people. There is not anymore that thing. The stigma of failure, and that was the most difficult article to be accepted by the system, because failure and stigma was the same thing. And probably the fourth, I mean, we made three points. The fourth point of the good leader is courage, because change has a lot of enemies, and always creates a lot of resistance, and you have to go against a lot of people and a lot of structures that behave against change. But if you balance the advantages and the cost because of change in an organization, and the best example for me was at the post office, because really the change there was total, but the people accepted it, got involved. Even the trade unions participated, because they realized that something important was being done, and the sacrifices and the benefits were evenly shared by all the people.
I would be able to spend hours discussing these and other issues with Corrado, but now we've come to the end of this interview. Let me just thank you for this exchange. I hope that this is not the end of the story, that there will be other opportunities for you to visit EUI and stay with us, because I think you have a lot of things to tell us and to teach to all of us.
Thank you.
Many thanks for your attention. Many thanks, Corrado.
Thank you, Ignazio.